Here.
Alita Kama.
Here.
Tom Eugene.
Here.
Natalie Wolf.
Here.
Scott Farmer.
Here.
Kevin McDonough.
Here.
Chief Wallace.
Here.
And if everyone could please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then I just want to note on this Veterans Day, I want to recognize any veterans in attendance and veterans in the village, as well as veterans outside the village, and thank all of council and the village administration. Thanks all those for their service. We'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, minutes from our last meeting. Those minutes were circulated in the package. There were some clerical changes that were circulated again this afternoon. Are there any further comments on the minutes? Seeing none, we can consider the minutes approved. We'll now move on to our finance report for September 2019.
Looking at the finances for September 2019, the earnings tax collections for the month total about $266,000. That's about 1.7% up from September of 2018's collections in the amount of $262,000. That brings our total collections year to date of $2.3 million. So we're about an 86% collection rate at this point as of the end of September of 2019. On the property tax for the general fund, the village did receive a little over $78,000. This was a property tax rollback that we received through the state via the county. Village also booked about $5,800 in a local government fund, so our total revenue for the month of September was just shy of $400,000, and that brings our total collections for the year-to-date of $4.3 million. Our revenue estimate for 2019 was $4.9 million, so we're about an 87% collection rate at this point. On the expense side for the general fund, last month's expenses September's expenses totaled $442,000. We've spent so far year-to-date $3.5 million. Our budget for 2019 is $5.2 million, so we've spent about 67% of the general fund budget thus far. The village closed out the month of September with an unencumbered general fund balance of $6 million. And that concludes.
Are there any questions for the mayor? If not, we'll move on to the next item, and we have a number of citizens to address council this evening. For those that will be addressing, just to ensure consistency, as our charter provides 3 minutes, we will be operating the light system tonight. All that will happen is the red light goes off at 3 minutes, just to help ensure, as I say, ensure consistency. And as the residents come up to speak, if you could just come up to the podium, state your name, your address, and then go ahead and start speaking. So first item is Carol Donovan.
Thank you. Carol Donnellan, 8770 Arborcrest, here to talk about We Thrive. We Thrive, as you know, has been around since 2011 here in Amberley Village. It's a partnership with Hamilton County Board of Health, Amberley Village residents, and businesses. So in the past year, we've revitalized the general health and wellness piece of We Thrive. It started in 2011. In fact, the park horse, that was part of We Thrive, and some things going on at French Park were part of the original We Thrive. And the environmental committee has been going very strong since then, but the health and wellness pathway sort of dissipated a little bit, so we brought it back in the past year. So we appreciate this opportunity to give you an update on what we've been doing and kind of our general plans for the future. In the past year, we got started. We have 9 community members and 5 representatives from area businesses. And we all work together to help build general health and wellness in our community. We started with a community map. We mapped out what's already happening in the community. We did an assessment as part of the Centers for Disease Control, their assessment tool that they have. And we mapped that out, what's already happening in Amberley, how can we build on what's already here and really help spread the word of what's going on, and how can citizens get more involved, and how can we let them know what healthy activities are already happening here in town. We started, you may know, we did the yoga on the lawn. That was one of our big things, and that really came about because of our great partnership with the JCC. That was something they had wanted to do, so we went with it, and it worked out really well. We think we had 40 to 50 unique people come to that, individuals. Many people came more than once, but we had no idea what to expect, the first time doing something, so we were quite happy that we had that many people. We hope to continue that, going forward in the spring next summer. We also are talking with the JCC. One of the things they would like to do is capitalize on the park course that's already there and have a trainer lead people through the park course so people can get a general idea, feel for it. A lot of times people see a passive piece of equipment like that and don't know how to get started, what do you do, how to prevent injuries, those kinds of things. So we're working with them on that kind of thing. We're also talking with them about doing a general health and wellness open house where we really want to increase maybe some screenings. They just recently had some things there. I saw they had a mammography screening there. We'd like to kind of do something where we could bring all kinds of things together. One of our newest partners is the Mercy Health Group, so we're hoping we can capitalize on their screening activities too and build a real community resource for everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next resident, Andrea Singer.
Hi, I'm Andrea Singer. I'm at 3121 South Farmcrest.
Hi, Maureen Dietz, 3158 South Farmcrest.
So there has been an increased amount of traffic on Ridge, as you all might be aware of. And due to that, people are now filtering through our street, and the amount of traffic and speeders is just kind of gotten out of hand, and it has now caused a safety concern with all of our kids. We have a changing demographics in our neighborhood. There are now over 20 kids in just less than a half a mile on our street, and our kids play all the time. There's no sidewalks, there's no lights at night, there's nothing for the kids, and now we have speeding cars all the time. There's also 2 blind spots on our street, which makes it hard for the kids to see, and it makes it hard for the speeders who are now cutting through to see our kids and people walking their dogs. People walk that loop all the time. They're speeding a lot in the morning times, racing to school from 7 to 9. They're speeding after school around 3 to 4 o'clock, trying to get to after school programs, and they're speeding after work. I live kind of right in the middle of the street, and we play in our front yard because we have a slope back hill, and I just watch it all the time. And my kids are out there all the time. I have 3 boys who are here, and we've got to do something about it. There's no other street in Amberley that has this sort of a cut-through problem with the speeding, and we would like to maybe propose speed bumps, permanent ones or temporary ones, if you could possibly maybe gauge the speeding for a while and see how that goes. But we urge you to do something. There's just no price tag for our kids, and we have been watching it for years now, and it kind of has to stop. And my son has something to say. Say your name.
Hi, my name is Ben Singer, and the reason I want speed bumps is so when kids are playing and cars will be going very fast, and that's why I want speed bumps, so they will keep me safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief, you want to?
Yeah, I'll address it. Thanks for coming tonight and speaking. We currently have about 8 streets that want speed humps, besides the 2 you just brought up. So coming off of Cross County, I'll give you an example. Coming off Cross County down Ridge, no one wants to go to the intersection at Galbraith, so what they do is cut through Longmeadow, and they shoot to Spring Valley and cut out there, so Longmeadow and Spring Valley. When we had construction on Spring Valley, they decided they'll use Lamarck. And then when Lamarck got into construction, they used South White Tree. So we'll have the same situation here. You know, we haven't gotten a lot of complaints from the residents of Speeder, so I wish you guys would have reached out sooner, because we actually put directed patrol out there if you guys reach out to us personally. And I'll put officers out there on a daily basis, and we'll do no ticket, or just write tickets. It'll be zero tolerance. What I'll tell you is, be reassured that we'll get a number of residents that live on the same street and to be your neighbors too. We don't have a problem with that. We did the same thing on Elbrook. The last month we had to do it on Sagamore, because that's the cut through from Deer Park, because they don't want to come down Galbraith Road, so they cut the back streets. And I know Kincaid through South and North Farmcrest is the same thing. What we'll do is we'll put our speed signs up and we'll track some speeds. Cars always appear to be going faster. My only concern about the speed humps on the hill coming down is most of our accidents are really not speed related, they're driver inattention related. They're coming down that, and they hit that, not paying attention to the speed humps, lose control, then they end up in your front yard. And that's what we worry about. We worry about that every day. And so what I say is we'll do our due diligence. We'll get officers up there and start writing some tickets, slowing them down, and we'll also start calculating the speed that people are traveling in those areas. I know Kincaid, their attempt was to stop people from coming through, but I can assure you, once we put them on North and South Farmcrest, we're just going to send them over the other side of Kincaid, going down that hill section. You know, with the construction on 71, that's killing our traffic right now. When 75 had all the construction real heavy close, we had all that. If there's an accident, we get all the traffic. Now we're dealing with the 71 traffic. It's a phase that we're going through with it. When spring comes back, this time of year, we pull the speed humps up to make it easier for response times, as well as our service department being on a plow and keep the streets clear. I'll definitely put this area on our streets for temporary speed humps to make sure it's accessible and we can do them in those areas. But when you put a speed hump in, you can't just walk in there and put a speed hump down. So it'll give you an example. If you put, like when we measured Longmeadow, so the street is roughly the same as probably South Farmcrest or so. It's like 1,600 feet. Well, in the 1,600 feet, if you put the speed humps in, that requires 3 sets of humps. It's based on a distance, a certain distance between each hump. You put one speed hump in, all they do is speed up to that speed hump, either jump over it, stop, or they speed up again. So you have to put a series of those in. And then with right now, this added us up to 10 streets that want them. Streets vary in length. Speed humps vary in cost, depending on the width of the street. They'll run anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 per speed hump. And we look at that as thinking, you know, you really can't put a price on a kid's life or an adult's life or anything else. We understand that, but we still have to be cost effective and, you know, control things. And there are other means that we can do, and that's what we'll attempt to do first. But definitely in the spring, I'll definitely have that area on our list too for temporary.
Chief, question I have is, the streets that you mentioned, other than Kincaid, I don't know that any have the kind of incline that South Farmcrest does. My wife and I have been on South Farmcrest across the street from the Singers for 9 years. I don't know if it's worse. It was, when we moved from Pleasant Ridge to South Farmcrest, we were astounded at the speed of cars coming down the hill, despite the fact that we wave flashlights or whatever when we're walking. And I think what's happening is, as Andrea said, there are more children on that street, and it's become more dangerous for them. And we as neighbors across the street can see the danger. I just would like you to take into account the fact that the slope is where we see the speeding, when they're coming down that hill.
Right. Remember, when we put those speed humps in place, when they're permanent speed humps, now this time of year right now, you put the speed bumps out there, we start getting ice buildup and things like that on the other side of the speed hump as they're coming down the hill. The water's got to flow downhill. It's going to start forming ice. At that point, you got slick speed humps. The car goes over that slick speed hump. Not everybody keeps their tires up and everything else. They're going to end up in people's front yards. There's no doubt about it. It's just people don't pay attention when they drive. You know, in a street that has a lot of kids, I don't care if it has a lot of kids, no kids, or one kid. Every life's just as important to us. You know, there's other cut-through streets that they're using. They'll do anything they can to avoid certain areas and certain traffic patterns, and we try to attempt to do that, cut that off by saying, you know, putting signage up, you know, residential traffic only, things like that. But, you know, people don't really care. They'll rather take their chance of getting caught, of doing something wrong, and then fight the ticket. But we will take it serious, and we definitely will stay on. I appreciate you coming out. If you guys want to get my card before you leave, I'll my card. Thank you.
First of all, obviously, I just wanted to thank you all for coming. It's really important issue. I really do feel like this is one of the top issues, and I think it's too complicated to maybe talk about right now. It's very important. The chief is clearly the first line for definitely for the enforcement, or the 3 E's, definitely for the enforcement piece. I think that this is worthy of having at some point soon having a committee meeting, again, maybe an HEW, about some specific streets and the specific issues, because I do think that every street has different challenges and issues. This one does have grading, is very significant. I also think the size of the yards is different, the amount of kids is different. I think that makes for a different scenario. And frankly, this street, the good thing about the timing of this street is we're also about to, hopefully, I mean, shouldn't knock on all the woods, go into an engineering phase around this street related to the repavement. So it's a different place in our pavement program, and therefore what maybe we can and can't have conversations about versus some of the other streets that the chief mentioned that either already have speed humps in the rotation or have just been paved or whatever it is. So I think this is worthy. This is probably the #1 issue on those handful of streets. Definitely Sagamore, definitely South Farm Crest, definitely a couple of others. And I think residents would like the opportunity to hear more and understand more, even if the answer is like, here's why speed humps can't happen. I think it would be really fair. I went through this in the city of Cincinnati. People want to understand a little bit more, and I think a more appropriate venue might be a committee. So can we like put this on an agenda for a committee meeting?
I think yes, let's allow the chief to gather the data, put the speed signs out, gather what data he can find as far as what speed they're doing.
We now understand we have been actively working on this for, I think, 4 years. So 4 years ago when this started, we actually started putting things together. The early recognition is notifying people, and sending flyers out to let people, remind people. We've been using temporary speed humps. We've been using speed signs, been tracking traffic speeds. So in the committees, we've been working on this. Whose committee was it? Allie's committee. So it's been at least 4 years that we've actually been working aggressively trying to come up with different plans going through this. And we'll continue. When we start talking about streets with the grades, street with the grades are important, but section road, I get more complaints on section road for speeding. And are there kids there? Yes, because of the Girl Scout camp and the Boy Scouts use the camp and stuff like that. So we deal with this on, you know, a lot of occasions. We have policemen sit out there regularly and write tickets because of the fact of that. We have a lot of people walk with their dogs and things like that. So we've got to keep everything in mind. Everything, you know, everything's an option. I'm not saying speed humps aren't an option, but everything has to be an option. But we still have to be diligent, because if we put, you know, speed humps on every street in this village, you know, I got to remember, keep in mind, we're delaying response times. Could be delay them on police cars, fire trucks, and things like that. We got to keep all those little things in mind. May seem just like seconds, but the seconds are really important when it comes to somebody's life.
I just want to remind, I guess, Scott and the rest of the council is that I think 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this council passed a pedestrian safety resolution, and more than 4 years ago, as part of that resolution, whenever we are engineering road improvements, we are supposed to, council wants us to take into consideration whether there are pedestrian safety issues to those streets. So as Councilperson Keeneline pointed out, we do, again, we have a grant out, we really want to fix your road, but this actually could be optimal timing. I mean, especially in light of the fact that you have spoken to all of your neighbors and you all seem to agree and have pointed out to us very clearly that this is a concern, and so it is our concern too. And we do have a process in place that we're supposed to follow, so whether that means we need to go out there and count the cars, or time the speeders, or try the humps, or try all the different things, and then perhaps put this into our plan and our program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next citizen to speak, Steve Kushar.
Good evening. On this Veterans Day, I'd also like to be the first say to those men and women who served, who are in the room or here today, thanks for your service, and God bless America. We're at a critical stage right now in the JCC Amberley Green proposal. We have a clear picture of what the JCC wants to do with our property, and I mentioned it's our property. I think now is the time to get the missing definitive information we need in order to make some objective decisions regarding the future of our most valuable asset. If you truly want to do what's best for the village and be transparent, we need to pause. We should have nothing to hide, and any delay should not affect any benefits to the village. The village interest should always come above all others. First, we need to obtain an independent third-party estimate of the Amberley Green property so we know the fair market value when negotiating any contract with any party, be it the JCC or others who may be interested in the future. Second, we should make no zoning changes until a master plan for the Amberley Green is developed. Be smart, get a plan. Third, the JCC says virtually no cost to the village. We need to know real total costs of what it will take for the village to support the JCC plan. We should be able to determine this. It's been 3 years coming since we've been negotiating with the J. We also see earnings tax revenue waved around by the JCC, but no one can verify or guarantee this information. Tell us what this is and that the JCC will guarantee it. Then show our total investment and future running cost on this plan. The JCC purchased their current site for millions to build their facilities. Now their business has grown. Why should the village now gift twice as much land to them? It's their business. They are spinning this proposal as if the village needs to support their expansion. We should step up and let the JCC know it's our land and we are setting the ground rules. Here's what I suggest and what I believe is right path forward. Take the necessary steps I previously mentioned, get all this information, share it with a new FAQ to residents via special newsletter, email, village manager phone message, whatever. Then have a town hall to finally get real resident input based on real facts and figures. Take the right common sense approach. Why would you not? I mentioned several times over the past month about a master plan and lack of one. It also applies to any thorough business plan. In this case, one and the same. Why have a plan? Basically, is so that if you deviate from the plan, you can understand the consequences. It's your duty to do so. Thank you. Thank you.
Next resident to address, Emily Glazer.
Hi, I'm Emily Glazer at 9055 Rolling Ridge Court, and I want to address the Mayerson JCC and their plan with what they want to do with the camp at the Amberley Green. Especially one thing that concerns me is their plan to put in public restrooms on the Amberley Green, and especially adding in sidewalks and streetlights and just how easily accessible it would be for all kinds of people inside and outside our village to get here. And this is why I'm concerned. There's a big opioid epidemic in the city of Cincinnati, and it started up north and it's making its way down south. And then with 3CDC coming in and taking over Cincinnati, the homeless problem is starting down south and moving up north. And both these issues are going to meet in the middle. So Amberley's a good location, north and south. And I'm concerned because this is going to bring a lot of drug use into our village. And I've heard how we already have a slight drug problem, so we don't want to increase this, and especially not at a camp where there's going to be children going every day, spending their summers. And then maybe at night when they get a little bit older and hanging out with friends, they get a little curious and they make their way down now to these public restrooms and they find maybe people from surrounding areas in there doing things that maybe they shouldn't be doing, like drugs, or they find trash and paraphernalia on the ground and they become curious. And I'm just concerned because what's going to happen when the Mayerson JCC builds their campsite for kids and they have their public restrooms, and one day a kid goes in at camp and they find needles on the ground and condoms and all sorts of things, and they come home one day and they're like, "Oh, Mommy, what was that I found on the ground?" Or, "Oh, Mom, I met this really nice man at camp today, and look what he gave me." And it's a bag. It starts off as a bag of weed, and then it goes to a bag of cocaine, and it goes into all sorts of things. And you can't tell me this hasn't happened because I have a whole department at the University of Cincinnati in social work. They can stand behind me with their years of research and the years of research I have, and we can all say that this has started in the suburbs where Mason and Finneytown actually happen to be the top in drug use right now. And so Amberley, if we add our sidewalks and public restrooms, we're one step closer to becoming there.
Hi, Emily. I just want to commend you for coming and speaking to council. I don't know if you know, Emily was one of, I coached Emily in Girls on the Run, and this is exactly the kind of thing that young girls are encouraged to do, is to express their civic mindedness, and coming and speaking to council is a perfect example of that. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next resident to speak, Susan Glazer.
Hello, everybody. Susan Glazer at 9055 Rolling Ridge Court. I'm going to make it short and sweet. You all make it sound like it's really great having the JCC expand into what Steve said is our property. Amberley Village belongs to us, and we have to look at who is actually going to benefit from this. And from what I can see, I don't find Amberley Village really benefiting. We are a great community. We don't have to have a park to bring the community together. Maybe other parts of Cincinnati did, but we don't have to. We've been here over 100 years strong, and I don't see why we need to bring the JCC over for $1 a year on prime land to make our community better. That's one. There are the facts that were handed out, not facts, statements were handed out by the JCC. They are like Goliath. They have a lot of money, they have unlimited money and resources, unlike people who are running for the council, my two candidates, Colin Driscoll and Stephen Couchard. And it was a tough fight to get against incumbents, but overall I think we did very well in getting sidetracked. Back to what I wanted to say here is that the Jewish Center handed out handouts. When you walk in, handouts, and if anyone were to read it, you go, this is a no-brainer. I mean, this is going to be great for the village. Look what we have, and you can read on the back and the front of all the things Amberley has to benefit from this. I want to see the facts. I want to see the facts as soon as possible, not somewhere down the line once it's started, not when the zoning has been changed. I want to see facts now. I'm tired of council being told, not just to me, but to other members of the Amberley residents, being said, we're going to work on it, we're going to work on it. Facts need to be presented now, and it should be going to all of the residents in Amberley, and there should be more town hall meetings like we had, I don't know, 14, 15 years ago, I don't know exactly, with Crest Hills. We had open meetings. It wasn't big enough here, so they rented out. They were at different facilities. And that's what needs to be done. Most of the residents in Amberley, because we were going door to door, aren't really even aware of what's going on, and that's okay. I know you do your best to get it out there, but we need more marketing. We need to get the residents educated as to what the center wants to do, but most importantly, we need facts. We need to know how much is the revenue going to be. I've heard it from you at $25,000 back in May or June at an open house, and now it's up to $125,000, which still isn't enough. Where are your facts? I need research, facts to support. Thank you.
Okay, final resident to address, Colin Driscoll.
Just doing my little stopwatch here. Colin Driscoll, 6600 Ridge Road. As I entered the campaign, I had only two options: campaign against the single most involved member in the community who happens to be in my district, or run at large. The choice was clear, and the decision wasn't personal. I commend Peg and Alita for a well-run, clean, totally above-board campaigns. I enjoyed spending 13 hours with them at the polls. At one point, I inquired whose Peg's muscle was, and he introduced himself as Rick K., our treasurer. Then there was Alita with her juggernaut there. Alita is totally engaging, well-known, and liked by everybody. If they don't happen to know her, they certainly know Max. I really enjoyed my time with Max, and at the end of the day, I said, if you ever start an adult camp, I'm in. Throughout my campaign, I met a lot of great people with great thoughts and ideas as I walked the village, so I will stay engaged. Let's see here real quick. On the Northside thoughts, I attended a meeting last Friday, and I campaigned to try and get better deals for residents. So I was excited to hear that we are getting a better deal on the second parcel on the north side. Comments on the JCC open house. I attended both open houses. They highlighted the payroll tax revenue from the JCC, the Federation, Jewish Family Services, the three of them, since 17 amounts to about $450,000. I didn't realize this was a group ask, since the communications I saw were on JCC letterhead. The JCC's 990 indicates annual payroll revenue to the village of roughly $100,000. The mayor indicated we can expect a payroll revenue increase of about $125,000 annually. I commend council for realizing that we need a traffic study for Amberley Green to measure the JCC's impact on that site. Hamilton County required we do a traffic study at the north site before selling us the parcels we needed to move forward on that site. I'll leave you with this. The village is on record questioning appropriate development on Amberley Green. Hamilton County is on record questioning appropriate development on the north site. Council's silence is deafening regarding the proposed JCC expansion and unquestionably the worst traffic spot in our village. 415 employees, 9,000 members, 27,000 visitors a month. I think we can come up with a solution that can work for everybody. 3 minutes. Oh, do they? Okay,
yes, they do.
great.
Yes.
I'm in.
It's a weekend before camp starts in the early summer. So, yes.
I'm in.
You'll love it. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is committee reports. And the Finance Committee, and normally Councilman Hattenbach would be presenting this report. Councilman Hattenbach's mother passed away last Thursday, and so services were yesterday we made a decision to reduce the amount of fees that were being levied against residents for the stormwater fund. When we did that, we knew that we were potentially putting the stormwater fund in a place where they would have to be supported by the general fund. But this is something we thought was worthy to do. And so we reduced the fees to residents and just accept the risk that the general fund will have to pay for a little bit more of the stormwater fund. So that moves $40,000. This came about because of some unforeseen expenditures in our stormwater program, some higher charges from the streets program, which helps fund some of the stormwater work, as well as some change orders that came in from some of the work that was done. The next item also relates to the stormwater utility. We will be appropriating an additional $27,168 in the stormwater utility fund. These funds were already in the fund, but we did not appropriate those at the beginning of the year, so we will be appropriating $27,168. The next item that the ordinance proposes to do is reallocate $10,640 from one budget category to another. So this is simply transferring from one category to another. And finally, we need to reduce appropriations in two funds to match the revenues that have come in. We are proposing to reduce in the police, disability, and pension fund, reduce the appropriation by $735. And then in the police levy fund, we are proposing to reduce appropriations by $12,645. Again, these are both due to the fact that the revenues coming into those two funds are less than what was originally anticipated, and we had originally appropriated based on the anticipated revenues, so this simply reduces to match the anticipated revenues. So I hereby move that we adopt ordinance 2019-10, which would amend these appropriations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-10, which amends and reallocates appropriations for the current fiscal year. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-10. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Kay Conway.
Yes.
Alita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muthi.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, and that concludes my Finance Committee report. And we'll now move on to the Land Development Committee, which, as I chair that committee, so I will also present that report. Before you tonight is ordinance 2019-11, which is the proposed sale of a little over 2 acres of land that was referred to earlier in Mr. Driscoll's address to council. The Land Development Committee met on November 8th to review this proposal and recommends that we do move forward. As I said, it is a sale of a little over 2 acres to the Lewis Animal Hospital. The Lewis Animal Hospital currently operates an animal hospital down on Galbraith Road, very close to I-75. They were concerned and continue to be concerned that eventually their space would be, they would be required to vacate the space because of work on I-75, and have been looking at our site for a little over a year. So they are now ready to move forward on the purchase of this land. When we started discussions with the Lewis Animal Hospital, the piece of property that they're interested in is a piece of property just to the west of the current Mercy Medical Office building that you can see along Ronald Reagan. And we lease that space to Mercy Medical. And we originally were talking about the lease with the Lewis Animal Hospital. However, they were interested in the purchase of land and not lease. Originally, we got into discussions of lease with the Mercy Medical and also with the Lewis Animal Hospital because we were concerned we could not create a separate plot for sale on the north side. And the reason that we have an issue at the north side is because there's no public road access to the north side. It's accessed via a service road, which is not a public road. And under our code of ordinances, in order to have a separate plot of land, it must have frontage on a public road. And so we were concerned that we wouldn't be able to create a separate plot. But after discussions with Hamilton County and internal discussions, we have now determined that in order that we can create a separate plot, and Hamilton County will allow a separate plot as long as our Board of Zoning Appeals grants a variance from that particular provision. So we now think we can sell the land to Lewis Animal Hospital. The proposed sale price is $130,000 per acre. The original listing price when we listed the land at the north site was $110,000 per acre. So we have been successful at increasing the price on the land from $110,000 to $130,000. The other thing we will be doing is that we had 6 acres of land between kind of the beginning as you come in off of Ridge Road back to our maintenance site. So Mercy took 2, this takes 2. We will be left with 2 additional acres that we are marketing. And so one of the things we wanted to do in this case is try to Mercy laid a separate sewer line down to the main line. The Lewis Animal Hospital will be laying a sewer line. But what we did with the Lewis Animal Hospital is we negotiated that they will, rather than put in a 6-inch line for the sewer line, they will put in an 8-inch line, which would mean that we will not have to do an additional sewer line when we hopefully sell the additional 2 acres of that land. The incremental cost of doing the 8-inch line versus 16 or the 6-inch line was $18,650, and we have agreed to pay that $18,650. So the purchase price will be reduced by that. But the net sales price of $130,000 less the $18,650 means that we will sell the property for $275,804 before a 6% commission that we will pay to the party that is selling or has been marketing the property. And finally, what Lewis Animal Hospital brings to the village is a payroll of $800,000 on an annual basis. So the tax revenues to the village will be approximately $16,000 on an annual basis. So, plus the real estate money itself. So in order to move this forward in an expedient manner, I would first like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings of this ordinance.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings of this ordinance. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the 3 readings on ordinance 2019-11. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Peg Conway.
Yes.
Lita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muething.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, I would now like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-11, an An ordinance authorizing and directing the village manager to negotiate and execute a contract for the sale of the 2 acres down to the north side.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-11. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, just to thank you for that very detailed description. I think just to clarify, what we are doing, we're approving the final negotiation. So the shovels aren't going in the ground just yet. We haven't, the deal has yet to be, completely inked, but this is the council action. I will try to be very brief here, but I do support this today. I will be voting in favor of it, so not to scare anybody. But this has been going on for a while in land development. Council's had the chance to talk about this as well, and I've talked about it with the village manager, so I'm just going to say my piece here on the record. I do support this. In general, I am very in favor of leases for public land instead of sales for a variety of reasons, including, in this case, obviously we had the issue that the mayor mentioned, but mostly for issues of control long-term in the village, including control over revenue streams in the long term, but also use. And this is something I've been on the record about, in not just related to the north side, but also related to the Amberley Green, and I continue to feel that way. However, and my job professionally, I spend my day looking at contracts, reviewing them, and thinking about all the horrible things that can go wrong and trying to mitigate risk as much as possible for people. I think that our village manager and our solicitor did an amazing job negotiating this to the best of our ability to do everything that we could in the contract to mitigate risk. And one of the things in the contract is really, we have a really good protection for the first 5 years if things go horribly awry. And I really am thankful for, I've complained about it a lot, and I'm very thankful for everything that happened to try to do that. This is really, I think the benefits outweigh the potential for things to go wrong, but in the long term, once we sell, that's it, it's gone. We only have the tools that we have going forward, and we do. We have 2 big tools that we still have in our toolbox. One is zoning, and I think our zoning code, in this case, there was a special zoning code created a while ago for our site. It generally, I think, protects us against really bad uses here. It probably does not fully protect us against a use that has a significantly lower payroll than this, though, so from a financial standpoint, we may or may not be able to control that in the long run, but we do have zoning, which is a good thing. We also have our property maintenance code. If suddenly the building becomes vacant and overgrown and there's, they stop taking care of it. We have tax liens if they stop paying taxes, so we have these tools. But I did ask our manager in our land development committee that when we review our property maintenance code in general, that's specific to the issue. I'm particularly sensitive to this issue because this is what happened during the last recession, and everybody keeps saying the next recession is coming. And combined with this is an industry where there are a lot of national takeovers. So, if it's a wonderful local company, they want to be part of our neighborhood, they're amazing, wonderful. But in 10 years, if they get bought out by a national company, the land gets sold to some Oklahoma REIT in 10 LLCs and gets sold off to a bank, and all of a sudden they vacate and we have no way to reach them. The ability to at least make sure that we have the fullest amount of tools in our tool belt around our property maintenance code and enforcement and tax liens, all of those tools that governments use to be able to protect ourselves. Just want to do a little bit of a check and buttoning up on this related to this. I think the contract is as good as it's going to get, but we still have these tools that I want to make sure. But with all of that said, I'm being very optimistic. I think it's a great use. I think village residents are going to be very excited about this. It goes really well with the current use there. It's not going to be a big traffic burden. We're getting some nice money up front, as Colin mentioned. I think it's a good economic deal for the village today, and all that. The final piece I want to say about this, though, is just I don't want this to be considered, my vote today, as a precedent, especially even on the north side. I'm even more concerned about the property that's right up against our maintenance facility. That third parcel, the opportunity to go out and try again to use our preferred method, my preferred method of a lease, is still, my personal belief is that that's still in the best interest of the village, notwithstanding this particular situation and vote. But I'm happy to vote in favor of this today. And thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-11. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Yes. Peg Conway.
Yes.
Alita Kamine. Yes. Tom Muting.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
Okay, and finally, I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-11 as an emergency measure. Again, the emergency in this case is we want to move forward as quick as possible to close the deal because we do not want to lose this deal. There is if we close the deal, it opens up the due diligence period. One of the things that Amberley has to do during that due diligence period is have the Board of Zoning Appeals pass that variance that I talked about. The buyer needs to go through their diligence, make sure title's clear and everything like that. But we want this to start moving as quick as possible. So I hereby move that we adopt ordinance 2019-11 as an emergency measure, which will allow it to go into immediate effect.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-11 as an emergency measure. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2019-11 as an emergency measure. Please call the roll.
Richard Bardak. Yes. Peg Conway.
Yes.
Alita Kamine.
Yes.
Tom Muthi.
Yes.
Natalie Wolf.
Yes.
And I know our vice mayor, who has had a conflict this evening, but came to the meeting, is going to leave now. But I thank you very much for staying.
Sorry to miss the rest.
Okay. And that concludes my Land Development Committee report, and we'll now move on to the Investment Committee, and I'm not going to present that.
But I am presenting it also in Councilmember Hattenbach's absence. So the Investment Committee met on October 29th with our Village's investment advisor, Bob Francotti, who is a managing director with PNC Capital Markets. He provided a market perspective on investments in general based on PNC's own economists who rate projections going forward. They had a general consensus that after the Federal Open Market Committee meeting scheduled for the next day, that there would be another rate cut of 0.25%, which there was. Expectations are that there will be no further adjustment to the Fed funds rate for 2020. These market conditions affect the village as an investor and the interest rate the village can receive on our investment portfolio. Since interest rates aren't rising, our laddered portfolio serves the village well. Laddering involves building our portfolio of bonds with staggered maturity so that a portion of the portfolio will mature each year. Principal from maturing short-term bonds that have been low-yielding is reinvested into new longer-term bonds. This strategy smooths out reinvestment risk since money is being reinvested continuously through a full interest rate cycle. When rates were rising last year, the village was able to invest and achieve maximum returns going forward. Now that rates are stagnant or declining, the investments made this past year will exceed rates we can currently receive. The average return on investments has increased to 2.466% as compared to 2.038% at the same point in 2018. The committee reaffirmed our policy of laddering investments. It will be effective even as rates decrease in the coming 6 months to a year. The expected rate of return will be approximately 1.75% on our investment portfolio of $6,750,000.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, we will move on to the manager's report.
The first item under the manager's report is Resolution 2019-30, placing a lien on nuisance abatement properties. This is an administrative housekeeping item that council needs to take action on. It's a result of two parcels that had high grass. They were not in compliance with the property maintenance code. The village put the property owners on notice. The property owners failed to remedy the violation. We followed up with the property owner to invoice them for the work the village had completed, and they failed to pay that bill. So our next step is the action for you to take this evening, which is to file this with the county auditor to be placed on the property tax, and that's how the village will receive the money from the work that was done to correct the nuisance abatement. So a motion is in order for Resolution 2019-30.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2019-30, placing liens for nuisance abatement expenses.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2019-30, placing liens on the properties. Are there any questions or comments? If not, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 2019-30. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it noted that the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you. I normally try to limit my village manager items to 3, but there's so many things I want to talk about, I expanded to 5. So, I wanted to just update folks on the electric aggregation program. This has been a very successful program for the village, and even though our program does not come due until this upcoming summer, this was a great time to go to the market to shop and see what kind of rates we could get. And fortunately, we did get very good rates. And you may recall that in September, Council gave the authorization to enter into an agreement. A couple of conditions that you placed on that. One was that the rate would be, the duration of the rate would be between 12 and 36 months. And then the other stipulation was that it would be lower than the current rate that our residents are currently paying. So the rate that our residents are currently paying is 0.0527 per kilowatt hour. The agreement that I signed with a new carrier drops that rate down to 0.04829 kilowatt per hour. So there is a savings there for our residents. So once again, the program is fulfilling what our voters asked for and what council committed to in regards to the electric aggregation program. So that program will be rolled out over the next 6 months or so. And the new carrier will be Constellation Electric. So it will be a new carrier that we have not, I don't think we've had Constellation in the past. So this will be new to us. So great news on the electric aggregation program. And I wanted to follow up on the gas aggregation program because that's also an excellent program for the village. That particular rate, we locked in a rate for beginning November 1 of this month that carries us through October of 2020. And that rate ends up being a gas rate of 0.3550 CCF. So that is lower than what we are currently paying, which is 0.3937. So it's about a savings of about $96 a year. Once again, that information will be made available on our website. Folks who are on the program don't need to do anything. This will all continue as had been planned before. So great news on the village aggregation programs.
Okay, just one thing. You said on the electric aggregation, it'll start rolling out in the next 6 months. The current program runs through August 1st next year?
August, yes. It'll be August 2020.
When the new one starts. So,
Yes.
So, I mean, village residents won't start receiving notices probably until next May, June?
Late spring. Yes. Late spring. So the residents will receive notification that this program is underway. Ours is an opt-out program, so they have residents be given the opportunity to opt out of the program. And then one final piece of that is Duke will send another notification to the same residents telling them that they're about ready to be enrolled in the Constellation program. Do they want to opt out? So we have opportunities for residents to do something.
But if you want to keep what you have, you just keep doing it. Right?
Same.
I just ignore everything that comes.
Right. And so that's part of the messaging that we will convey as we get closer to that date. One of the programs that our police department participates in is referred to as the OBI program. It's operating a vehicle impaired. It's a program where some of our officers participate in it. We actually run radar or patrol out on certain areas of the village to try to keep impaired drivers off the street. This past month, we were awarded the Gold Member Agency because Amberley has been a very active member of the OBI task force. But I think more important is that one of our officers, Sergeant Brandon Gehring, was recognized for having the most OBIs for the 3rd year at a row. Great recognition for Sergeant Gehring. We are currently underway with leaf collection. We began collecting leaves on October 15th, and the department has been, will continue that pickup until the 27th of December. This week, residents will start seeing the black and white signs put throughout the neighborhoods to give you an alert about a couple days in advance that the crews are going to be in your area. But we do strive to pick up leaves at least at every house once a week until the season gets into the peak flow, and then we usually get to each house about between 7 and 10 working days. But the leaf collection, we're not at peak yet, but we will be soon, especially after the weather we're receiving right now. And along with that leaf collection is our brush light program. This is a new program this year. We are picking up brush while we're also picking up leaves. We don't really have the manpower to do both, but it was an effort initiated by the maintenance department to try to do both, to extend that service to our residents with the brush light program. So our intent is we will try to pick up brush, but that is not the priority. Leaf collection will be the priority. If we have the time, we will pick up the brush. We would just encourage residents not to put out large loads of brush, because we will not be able to handle that as the leaf season gets into swing. And that has actually been going quite well. And then the last item I wanted to mention is the new hire in our office. The vacant administrative assistant position has been filled by Carolyn Wallace. So she's our new part-time administrative assistant, so a new face in our office. Carolyn has worked 30 years for Hamilton County, and she recently retired from the county's Human Resources Department as their program compliance administrator. So Carolyn comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. She lives locally, and she's excited to continue serving the public while enjoying part of her retirement. She works about 32 hours a week, so if you've not had a chance to meet Carolyn, I encourage you to stop in sometime and introduce yourself. She started last month, so she's survived a week. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for the manager? If not, we'll move on to the chief's report.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and try to extend this meeting as long as I can. Because we're not getting out anytime soon. Just a couple things. The first thing is the vehicle break-ins. People have been seeing it on Nextdoor, social media. On Friday evening, Deer Park actually had a bunch of vehicles broken into, and they actually had a car stolen. If you're on Facebook, go to their Facebook page, you can see the suspect on there. They got him on video. And then last night, up in the same area, the north end of the village, we had vehicles broken into as well as cars stolen as well. So people think that they can hide their keys on their cars and things. These criminals are pretty smart. So please lock your cars. Don't leave things out in the open. They typically do not break the windows. So if you can help, lock your doors and don't leave anything visible in the car. I think we go through this a dozen times a year. Currently, myself and the manager and the department is working toward, our EMS contract for our future years. So we're actively working with several departments, trying to come up with the best deal on that. And then lastly, I just want to mention that Steve Crumick's here and send our condolences to Steve. September, he lost his wife, Diane. I probably known Diane longer than Steve did, because when I was born, she was the nurse at the doctor's office. So she's treated me my entire life, and they're both great people, and she'd be truly missed. And I just send my condolences, and on behalf of myself, the department, we're very sorry for your loss. Concludes my report.
Any questions for the chief? Now we'll move on to the mayor's report. Just real quick. Next environmental stewardship committee meeting is November 25th, Monday, November 25th, down in the community room at 7 p.m. And then the only other item I want to mention is we move into what I would refer to as the holiday season in November and December. I encourage everyone to drive carefully. We heard the pedestrian issues, but obviously with weather and people excited and things like that and racing around, we always need to keep in mind to be careful this time of year and also enjoy your families and everything like that. So, I'm sure we'll have another chance in December to say happy holidays, but this is the beginning of the holiday season. And that concludes my mayor's report. Are there any questions? Any new business?
I just wanted to acknowledge and thank our administration and police department for the distracted driving activity that was held a couple of weeks ago. I will say that it was very illuminating for me. I did terrible at it because I don't do video games, so it was all very, like, the whole mechanism was like out of my realm. However, the handouts talked about distracted driving. When you hear that, you think texting or cell phone usage. But distracted driving also includes eating, putting on makeup, talking on the phone, all the things you do when you're driving. And I have to say, I have been thinking about those other things just as much. I mean, I really try to not use my cell phone, but I really invite people to consider that. It's quite amazing. So thank you.
Anything else? If not, we can consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.